Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Pound and we are studying Chapter 7.1 on the ecological landscape from Purposeful Designs Life Science. Today we're going to talk about Section 7.4 on freshwater ecosystems. So our objectives today will be to name and describe 4 freshwater ecosystems and explain the interaction between abiotic and biotic factors in freshwater ecosystems. So fresh water is water that contains no salt. And on the earth, only about 3% of the water on earth is fresh water. 2/3 of that water is contained in the ice and snow of the polar ice caps. Most of the rest of that 1/3 is groundwater. And so that means there is a very small amount that is actually on the surface in the form of streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. One other important thing that we need to know is that cold water holds more oxygen than warm water does. This is really important in some ecosystems. For instance, where I grew up, there was a spring-fed stream that went past my house. And brook trout could survive in that stream because they need cold water that has more oxygen in it, where they could not survive in other places where the water is warmer. Freshwater ecosystems also contain many different types of creatures. For example, crustaceans like crayfish, reptiles such as turtles and snakes, fish, mammals, beaver, those types of things, insects, mollusks, which would be clams, birds, worms, amphibians like frogs and salamanders, arthropods, plants, and protozoans. So all kinds of life exist in fresh water. But most of that life is actually plankton, which is microscopic organisms that live near the surface of the water. And the plankton is kind of what's making this water appear kind of greenish and a little murky. Those are microscopic organisms doing that. 4 different types of freshwater ecosystems include streams. Now, in streams, this is flowing water. It tends to be oxygenated because it is tumbling and air is mixing with it. The faster the water is flowing, the more oxygen it will contain. And also, twigs and leaves that fall into streams enrich the nutrient supply of the stream. In this type of environment, you will find organisms that are adapted to living in moving water. They may be streamlined in a certain way, or they are adapted to cling to the sides or the rocks on the bottom and that sort of thing. Also, you could include rivers in this category. The second type are ponds. Ponds tend to have muddy or silty bottoms, and there are all kinds of creatures that live here. The water tends to be more still. It's not moving around as much as in streams and rivers. The third type are lakes, and lakes tend to be deeper than ponds, and so they actually have zones in them where you'll have warmer water on the top and colder water on the bottom that does not really mix well, although it does at certain times of the year when there is more precipitation and rainfall. And wetlands. A wetland is an area of land where the water level is near or above the ground surface for most of the year. And so this is very shallow areas, like you see the heron in the background being able to stand in the wetlands. So our objectives today were to name and describe 4 freshwater ecosystems and explain the interaction between abiotic and biotic factors in freshwater ecosystems, mainly the oxygen content of them. So don't forget your 5 questions and keep watching to answer the questions at the end.